Hello, welcome to this video, which is going to be about the game of noughts and crosses and a very specific aspect of that game. But I thought in order to make this a more successful video and less just me talking, I would invite someone who I literally have taught game theory lectures with previously, which is Peter, who is here and also a maths person and does various maths things, including combinatorial game theory, right, as a big hobby slash
This is
interest. Yeah.
this is true, although you're making it sound like a very serious Noughts and Crosses video at the moment.
Yeah, this is like essentially we've both been wound up by the same thing, and we thought we would do a video about this because it's been winding us both up and we're annoyed by it. But I thought we'd start by obviously playing a game of noughts and crosses. That feels like a sensible way to start. So we've got our noughts and crosses grid, and in order to not kind of influence how this game turns out, we're going to play completely at random. So I have a 10-sided die, and Peter has one as well. We're going to ignore the zero because that is not useful here. We've got then 9 options on this die, and we're going to number the squares 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, top left to bottom right, and we're just going to play a random game of noughts and crosses. Would you like to go first? I don't know
Okay,
if that's an
so
advantage in this. I don't know.
I've rolled a 3.
Okay,
So 1, 2, 3. So I put,
that's
I guess,
the
a
top right. Yeah.
cross.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to roll. That's a 4, so I'm going to put this, I guess, a naught here. I guess. Oh, that's yeah. That'll do.
That's a
It's
lovely nought.
approximated a naught. Yeah, there we go. This is all going well. Your go,
Right.
Peter.
I've also rolled a 4. So I roll
Okay.
again
Yeah,
because you
I
filled
think
that.
that's what we got to do here, isn't it?
So 6.
It's just us
1,
rolling
2, 3,
threes and
4,
fours
5,
now for the
6.
next
Yeah.
hour.
Oh, my die is
Oh
doing
my.
very well. Yeah.
Well, what do I need? A 9. We'll see. I've got a 6, which is an upside down 9, but I'm not allowed that because you've just had a 6. Okay. A 1. Thanks for that. So I'm gonna put my 1 in there. Oh, that's a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
Drop my die on the floor. That's good.
Yeah.
7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7.
Can't believe this.
Yes, but 9 would have
Your
won
die
it.
is
Silly
much
die.
better at noughts and crosses than mine is. A 2. That's a completely pointless move.
Yep.
Okay. I'm hexagons, your crosses.
Another
And
7.
another 7.
Another 4. This is going to get harder to play, isn't it? 4 again.
Also a 5 would be a win here.
0, which doesn't do anything. 5. I've got a
Oh
5.
no.
Is 5 a
Ah,
win? Oh, yeah,
it's a
5's a
win.
win.
Yeah. What a
Mind you, there are
disaster.
only 3 options at this point,
Yeah,
and
and
2
two
of
of
them are
them were a
wins.
win, so
Yeah.
yeah. So, it's a game. But I think part of what we've just observed there is that some moves are better than others, right? And when you're playing noughts and crosses, I guess there is obviously there's the point of the game, which is to try and win and get 3 in a row. But there's also kind of there's a vernacular to the way that people play noughts and crosses, and because we did that randomly, it was kind of weird, and some of the moves we made were quite terrible or weird decisions.
Yeah.
And I guess what the thing that has been annoying us is that actually people who put pictures of games of noughts and crosses in places seem to be quite bad at this. And the main picture that's been annoying both of us is this one. And this is a photo that was taken by Matthew Scroggs and sent to us because we find this really annoying that whoever's designed this poster for this company's Noughts and Crosses advert has decided that this is somehow a game of noughts and crosses that someone would ever play.
Mm.
Um,
So I saw this a while ago. I travel by train a lot and it's at
mm,
Nottingham railway station. But traveling around the country a bit, it's at loads of railway stations at
mm.
the moment.
Yeah, I feel like it's following me around. Wherever I go, I sit down and then I look up and somewhere there is this poster. There's a whole series of them, and there's like a chess one and a various other things. But of all of them, I mean,
Should,
the dice one isn't amazing,
I
right?
was going to say special mention for the dice one, right? 3 is not next to 4 on a standard
On
die.
any die, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, although maybe it is on this one. No, it's not. But anyway, on a 6-sided die, it certainly isn't.
Yes.
But yeah, this game of Noughts and Crosses is, I guess, could happen. And I think there's probably some fundamentals of Noughts and Crosses that we could start by outlining, I guess. So the things that occur to me in a game of Noughts and Crosses, you've got this 3 by 3 grid. Um, there are 9 spaces, which is an odd number of spaces. So in a valid game, there should be either the same number of both symbol on the screen, or there should be one more of one of the symbols, like 5 and 4, if the whole grid is filled. But whoever's got 5 should be the player who went first, right? Or if one of
Yeah.
the players has more, even if it's a game that's finished before the grid's completely filled, whoever's got more symbols should be the player who went first.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, if we just should we just play something
yeah,
out
that's
quickly? So
yeah,
if I were to go cross in the corner like that, I went first, so I've got one more than you.
yeah,
Then if you have a go,
yeah. We're on the
now
same number.
we have the same number each. Then I go over here. Now I've got one more than you.
Yeah, and then I would obviously go here because I don't want
Yeah.
to lose.
So this brings up another thing that happens in noughts and crosses, which there are these forced moves, which is that you didn't have a choice there, in the
Hmm.
sense that if you want the game to continue, you have to go in the middle, and correspondingly, I now have to go in the bottom. And the game doesn't carry on if I don't do that. So it's a forced
Yeah,
move in that sense.
and I now have a choice. It's not a massive choice, I guess, because it's
No,
sort of symmetrical. So whichever one I pick. So, uh, I guess here. I guess
yeah,
maybe I'm
you've
squares
drawn
now.
a lovely square.
Yeah,
So you're forcing me to go there.
yeah. But then you're forcing this move.
Yeah, and then I go here, and it's a draw.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing to say about noughts and crosses is, if you have a drawn game, it's going to look like a very specific layout.
Mm.
So this is the only ways to draw a game of noughts and crosses. This is a diagram that I made years ago for a masterclass session. But these are the three draws that you can have, and I call them the U shape, as you might be able to tell by the fact that it's a sort of U shape on the left there. The
You're
L
looking at
shape.
the crosses. I was looking at the
Oh,
noughts. I was
yeah, if
thinking
you're looking at
that's
the
not a U.
crosses, it's the U
Yes.
shape. Then there's an
Yep.
L shape with a sort of gap in it, but that's you have to. And then there's an S shape, which I call the S shape because it's like the S piece in Tetris. But those are the only three, and like that's how I tell the difference between them. This in any orientation, reflection, rotation will be a drawn game. Any other combination will contain a winning line for one or the other player.
Okay,
Um,
that's nice.
and I guess that's the other thing here is that if there is a winning line of three, the game ends, right? Notionally, you would stop playing at that point.
Yep.
So if you do have a line of three, not only will the game stop, so you wouldn't have any extra moves after that point, but the person who's got a line of three is the person who's just played a move because they won.
Yeah. And the
So
person who's just played a move has either just put an equal number of symbols as the other person, or they've just gone one ahead. There's no
yeah,
other possibilities there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, given these basic ideas about the concept of noughts and crosses, it's a game. We all know how to play this game. We've all been playing it since we're small children. Why is it that people who want pictures of noughts and crosses end up putting stuff like this,
Mm.
or things that are not even a game of noughts and crosses? So, this is the sign on a pub called the Noughts and Crosses, which is a perfectly valid name for a pub. That's not how you play noughts and crosses. There's an and in the middle. Um, not a conventional. It's like an 8 square grid. No, we've got this, which I found like if you just search for pictures of games of noughts and crosses or tic-tac-toe, you find things like this. And this is obviously one where you can kind of flip them either way. And I'll give this one a bit of a pass because obviously children are playing this game, so like they're not necessarily going to be amazing at noughts and crosses. But here we have what is it, 7 noughts and 2 crosses. So that's not a proper game. This one um, is another stock photo of noughts and crosses. I guess this is a game where it's just gone very quickly in the way of noughts. I guess someone's
Yeah. Cross has put so yeah, this is what you're saying. Naught has to have played last because Naught has just won. And
yeah,
therefore Cross had an opportunity to beat Naught.
yeah.
However, those pieces were put down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
I don't really understand how this game is achieved. And this is, I guess, apart from like physically impossible, like the 6 noughts or whatever,
Mm.
this is the next category of game that you get where it's like, how did you get to this
Mm.
point? So there's also, for example, this is a stock photo that you can literally pay apparently $14.99 for. I don't know who's paying for these. Just make one, goodness sake. But like no one's gone in the middle.
Yep.
If someone did go in the middle at this point, if crosses went in the middle, they would win. and it's hard to say
and
whose
not.
go it is. If Noughts went in the middle, they would win. So whoever goes
Yeah.
in the middle there is going to win this game.
Whoever's turn it is whoever originally went first, and they're about to win. But
Yeah.
to have got to this point, you need some seriously bad decisions to have been made.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the issue. And then this is the Cambridge Dictionary website has a picture of a game of noughts and crosses. And I think I've worked out how it's possible to get to this game, even though again, like crosses really could have won here much sooner, as could noughts. But kind of if all of these moves were forced, so if kind of noughts goes in the middle, then the bottom, then crosses is forced to play here. And then if nought somehow incomprehensibly goes here, and then instead of going over here goes in the middle, they can force this one. But in between, crosses has to go in each of those places. It's kind of like it's not a natural feeling game. Um, I mean, I don't know if we can try and play this one. Can we try and recreate this situation? So I guess noughts has to go first. It sort of makes sense for them to go in the middle as a first move because that's what would be sensible, I guess. So if I
Oh,
go
we're
in the
being
middle,
sensible. Right,
I
good.
don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? Okay, so I'm hexagons. Wh- like you've got those four choices, I guess, to go as a second move. Um,
Okay.
I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
an edge. I don't know.
Shall I, shall I go in the middle of an edge? I'll go here.
Yeah. And then I guess for whatever reason, noughts goes down here. I guess that works, and then you're forced to go up there.
I'm forced to go up there.
And then noughts goes down here, and then you're
No,
forced to go down
because,
there.
oh, yes, because then I could be forced to go top left,
Oh yeah,
but I'm also forced to go bottom right. So here there are two
yeah,
ways for Naught to win. Naught's pulled a blinder there because I
yeah,
did a stupid opening move.
yeah.
Naught has two ways of winning. I can only block one of them, and therefore I go
I'm just
here.
gonna go over here. Yeah, cool. And now
So at the point
again,
here where you could have won,
yeah, I now have
you've
two more ways
instead
to win,
two more
and
ways
you
to
can
win,
choose which
and
ones are
I'm going to
what.
block one.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna go here. Oh, look, I'm better at noughts and crosses.
Yeah, well done.
But like, I don't understand how this is, and like, this is literally the Cambridge Dictionary, um, definition of noughts and crosses, and they've chosen this picture of an absolutely nonsense game to illustrate it. Um, I think the same picture occurs in other places as well. Yeah, so
That's the
this is
same, isn't
the
it? Wikipedia.
Wikipedia entry for tic-tac-toe, noughts and crosses, which uses like a different version of the image, but it's the same game. Um,
Mm.
I don't know if someone's looked up that stock photo and just recreated it, but this is the thing that making me wonder is like, could you not just play a game of noughts and crosses? Could you, just find someone nearby, ask them to play against you? And the reason I know that this isn't what people are doing, because obviously it could be that you just play someone nearby and they're really bad at this, is that you often get these ones. So that if you remember the pub sign from the noughts and crosses, they have
Mm.
updated their sign. And I've not actually been there to verify this, but I found a Google Street View view of it since then, and they've changed it to this, which is a different game of noughts and crosses. But
Uh-huh.
again, is this a possible game of noughts and crosses? And I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, how do you get to this situation? Can I? Oh, there we go. Um, and it looks like crosses has won here, but noughts has got five noughts. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. So that's a different kind of weird to the Cambridge Dictionary one,
yeah,
because here the player who has won has made fewer moves, and that is actually impossible. It's not just
yeah,
like the Cambridge one was like somebody has to have, gone for a little wander in their mind and not made the move that they should have moved. But you could actually play that as a game. Whereas this one, Naught needs to have made a move after Cross has already won.
yeah.
So that's
That
not a
yeah.
game.
Either you
Yeah.
didn't notice that they'd won and just kept going, and then were like, "Oh, you've won," or you just haven't understood the premise of the game of noughts and crosses.
Yeah.
Who else hasn't done that is the Board Games Wiki, who have also used a game in which the player who's won has fewer moves than the player who's not one.
Good.
It's
Yeah.
I think it's like a symmetry of that other one. There's this. I mean, this is great. This is a magic trick called noughts and crosses that is completely unrelated. It involves some cards that have noughts and crosses on them. But in order
Right.
to illustrate it, they've taken, I think, this same stock photo
Looks it.
and put it on
Yeah.
it, and they've not even taken the watermark off. So they've not bought the stock photo. They've just screenshotted it.
Right.
Sterling moves all around from everyone, and you just end up with something that looks like it's got the sort of visual look of noughts and crosses, but not actually. being noughts and
Yeah.
crosses.
If you
So,
glanced at it quickly, saw it in the corner of your eye or whatever, oh yeah, noughts
mm,
and crosses. I know noughts and crosses. It's just when you look at it, it's like, oh, hold on a minute.
yeah.
That's not right.
And I did actually ask around online for examples of bad games of noughts and crosses, and one of the most commonly sent things was this, which is the British test card for the BBC. If anyone's not familiar with this, it's what they used to show at the end of the night after the programs had run out, when they finished making television for the day. They would put up the test card.
So many
And
concepts to have to explain
I know,
there
right? And
at
it's
the
got like
yeah.
all the colors, and it's got a photograph and what have you.
It's a
Um,
test card because it's making sure that everything's coming through or that your
yeah,
television's working or something, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
But in this, a small child who is probably now retired, like that's how
Mm.
time works, is playing pretty bad game of noughts and crosses, but against an inanimate object. So I guess, I mean, I've seen inanimate objects that can play noughts and crosses better than this. I've seen a pile of matchboxes that can play noughts and crosses better than this. But
Because
yeah,
if we
it's
play the
yeah.
way we analyze noughts and crosses, we could perhaps talk about is that you what you do is you program a computer to play every single possible move from the current
Mm,
position and then to play every possible response to that and every possible response and so on until all the games are played out. Either somebody has won or it's a draw. And at that point, you score those games as to who won or whether it was a draw. And then you move up the tree, trying to decide what's the next best move for the current player. And if you do that analysis starting from the blank grid, then you get, oh, play in a corner. And people often think play in the middle. I think play in the middle is
mm,
also good, but play in the corner because I think programs, you often program them to look systematically through the grid. It usually plays top left if somebody programs this up. What you absolutely don't do is play the middle of a side.
yeah.
And
And this
both
is
of
what
these
both
players,
games have done. It's so good. It's so
yes,
good. Yeah, so this is good. And the one remaining terrible game of noughts and crosses that I've also been sent pictures of is apparently the one which is now permanently inked onto the arm of Louis Tomlinson from One Direction, ex One Direction, who has got this game of noughts and crosses, or a game of crosses, if you will, because
yes.
noughts hasn't even had a chance to play yet. Obviously not meant to be a real game of noughts and crosses, but maybe it's meant to be three kisses. I don't know. It's a personal thing.
But a
Um,
thing that you get is there are variant rule sets for nuts and
mm,
crosses, and there is one which I've forgotten the name of, where both players play as cross. And
mm,
I think it might be the first person to get three in a line loses. I can't remember which way
right.
around you play it because you can obviously play these games either the person who does the thing wins or the person who does the thing
Yeah.
loses, and you get valid games either way. And what happens if you give this to someone who's never played it before is that they often put three crosses in a row and go, "Oh no, that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing." Like they get overexcited and
Yeah.
their inclination to make a line happen. So that
Yeah.
looks to me like a game of everyone plays crosses that's just gone in the shortest possible route to the end of a game. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that won't be what's intended.
Yeah. I mean, who can say? We'll never know. But like, just do a proper picture of it anyway. Um, I have a theory about this, about why it is that so many places have games of noughts and crosses that either have impossible or incompatible or nonsensical things. And I'm
Mm,
thinking about, if you're like a graphic designer, you're asked to produce a game of noughts and crosses. If you tried playing one against someone who was nearby, it would probably finish before the grid was full, or it would result in a draw.
mm.
And I guess the sort of strategic thing that's known about noughts and crosses is that if all the players are playing optimally, you will end up with a draw. Um, a draw's no use, right? You want drama, you want a big line that you can
You want the
draw.
line. I
Yeah,
was
you
going
want
to
a
say
line of
that's
three,
what you
yeah.
want. Yeah.
So you either end up with a grid that's not full,
Mm,
which again, from a design point of view, might not look quite right, or you end up with a draw. So you want to somehow create a grid that has a line of three in it that isn't a draw. And I
mm,
guess the question is there a game of noughts and crosses? Is there a valid game of noughts and crosses where no one has really made an absolutely terrible decision?
right.
Because there are times when you make a decision that like you've got two places you need to go and you choose one, and if you choose one of them, the other player can win in the other one. So it doesn't
Yep.
mean it was a bad decision. But is there a version of this where someone has not really like come off badly, that if you
Mm,
watch them play, you wouldn't be like, oh, what are you doing? But that you end up with a full grid with a win, like that the win occurs on the ninth move.
yeah.
And I'm not sure. I guess this may be an open
Because,
question.
well, the sort of situation is like if I could get myself into this position, then I've got potentially two winning
Yeah.
lines. You can only block one of them. So we need to work out if I'm going to do that, what would you have done that would cause that to happen?
Yeah, so this is called a fork, if anyone wants to
Yeah.
look this kind of stuff up, if you've got two different possible ways to win.
I mean,
So I
here there are
guess,
three, so but you would have blocked one by
yeah. Oh,
now.
true.
This
Yeah,
is the
this
sort of
I
situation.
yeah, I probably couldn't avoid having blocked one of these. There's not
Hmm.
that many places to go. So I guess I don't know if you start in the top left,
Yep.
I don't know if we want to roll back to that point or should I clear it off? If you start in the top left, as
So
we
if
have
I go there,
established as a sensible move,
and then
um,
you don't take the center, which I
yeah.
think is the sensible response to
Hmm.
someone going in a corner.
Yeah,
I think
but
I
I could
think
be
then
like, oh, I'm going to try and block this. I mean, it
yeah.
still only blocks one line, right? It's not like given your move, it's only blocking that particular diagonal.
Well, try it.
I'll just make it be a picture of Louis Tomlinson instead. Right. So I'll go here because I guess that kind of gives you an option to go somewhere else.
The problem here is that if I'm going to start building my two
Hmm.
lines,
Well, if you go
like
in the
if
middle,
I go in the middle, because that
I'm
gives
forced to
me
go here, and you've
you're now
still got
forced.
your two options.
So then I would go here, but we haven't filled the whole grid.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go here. But then
Yeah.
if you're forced to go up here by that move,
Well, I'm not. I just
oh,
win.
you just win. Yeah, yeah. I don't think you can. I think there's no way you can because if you have a fork at any point, you should automatically win on your next turn, right?
Well, hold on. If we'd started that, if we do exactly what we just did, but let me just clear it back to where we were. We have to try and remember
I
what we
can
did, though. That's the
a
problem.
series of undos. Oh no!
Oh no.
All right, it's gone.
If I
Okay,
first of all go down here and you go up at top right,
okay,
and then we just do what we did before. So then I've just filled in the two spaces we didn't fill. You didn't go in
okay.
the, you now went in the top. I
Yeah,
don't know
but
why
that
you
I
would at
don't.
that point. Oh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Mm,
The thing is, like, if
no.
you go on the right now, you're forcing me to go in the bottom and
Yeah.
create two lines, but it's happened too early. If you go
Yeah.
in the middle, so don't do that. If you go in
Yeah.
the middle now,
Well, yeah.
you're doing it again. You force it. Let's just play it out. Then I'm forced to go down here, and I've created
Yeah.
two lines, and you can't block
Yeah.
both of them. So that's happened too early. So we kind of need, as well as two daft opening moves. Um, so at this point, if you go in the middle for no good, middle top for
Oh,
no
sorry.
good
Yeah.
reason, sorry,
Yeah.
and then I go in the actual middle for no good reason.
Yeah. Why would you do that? That's so ridiculous.
So now you're
Um,
forced to block me bottom right.
yes, because that's two of a line of three, and then you can create your fork there,
I go
and then I
here.
can only block this
Oh
one.
no, 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 no! Because if you also created two in a
Oh,
line,
I've
I
just
don't
I've
create
just
my.
won.
You've just
Yeah.
won,
Ah.
and
Ah.
not on the ninth move.
No. Yeah, so that I guess this is now the open question, and I'm gonna
Mm.
potentially just leave this as a question for the comments. So please interact with my video. If you have an example of an ordering of play, however you want to represent that, that gives us a win on the ninth move where no one has at any point made a really questionable move. I don't think there is one, and I think
Well,
this is why people who make pictures of noughts and crosses are so bad at it because it
you
just, yeah.
have to have made a mistake. The question is whether you make an absolutely ridiculous
Mm.
mistake or just a really silly game. Should we play the railway station advert
Uh,
as an example of
we
that?
can do, yeah.
You want to clear the
Yeah.
grid?
Yeah. Okay, so to remind everyone, this is the advert from the railway station. I mean, it's
So
symmetrical, I guess.
there are five noughts and there are four crosses. So do you
Yeah.
want to go
Also,
first?
noughts and crosses doesn't have that many colors, as far as I
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
But let's try it.
So I think you can't go in the middle because if you go in the middle, you'll create a winning line too soon.
Yeah.
So you've got to go in one of the corners.
Yeah.
And then I think I know what you're up to. So I'll go here and try and block you.
Yeah.
And you think, well, I'll go in
Oh.
another corner there,
Mm.
but not the opposite corner. Otherwise, I'll block you in the middle. So
Yeah.
now I'm forced to block there.
Ah.
But if you go there, I'm forced to block you in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
maybe instead of that. if I go here. Oh no, but you're still forced
I'm
to.
still forced to block you in the middle.
Ah,
So I don't
but
think this one does work,
if
does it?
instead I went here, you could either block me in the middle or block me here.
Oh, block you in the bottom. Yes, let's
Yeah.
say I do that. And then you don't
And then
notice that you can win
I'm
in the
like,
middle.
oh, this is such
Yeah,
a
that's
hard
it.
game. This is really difficult. I'm gonna try it. Just try anything and see what happens.
And
Oh
I say,
no,
oh,
you're
you're
gonna block
about to
me.
win again. I better
Yeah,
block you.
yeah.
Yes.
And then I somehow double win. Like I make two
Yes.
like simultaneous. Like that's a real victory. That's a real crushing defeat. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is apparently and the, the thing that gets me most about this is that this is a company that is advertising how clever they are. Right? They're saying this is we're good at strategy. We're good at making your business successful. We're clever. Therefore, we'll play this absolutely nonsense game of noughts and crosses and line up the value, even though we could have lined up the value at least 3 or 4 moves earlier.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
I don't know where the typical game ends in terms of it hadn't occurred to me exactly that your kind of desire to fill the whole grid, I guess, comes from. So what are the requirements then? If you want a picture of noughts and crosses, you probably don't want to draw because you'd like a nice winning line.
Yeah,
You want it to be pretty full, even if
yeah,
not completely full, and you want it to be not absolutely ridiculous. You need someone to
yeah,
have made a mistake somewhere, but you don't need someone to have just like the things where we're just playing, and there's no possibility of a winning line there anyway. Just not on, are they?
mm,
You want it to be a bit less daft than that. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, who can say? And I guess the real lesson here is like you don't need the whole grid to be filled, right? You can just have a game of noughts and crosses where someone has won. And I guess the original stock image here that has a partly filled grid, that's what a game of noughts and crosses really looks like. Either someone wins pretty quickly or you end up with a drawn game. Um,
Mm.
and maybe we need to see more drawn games of noughts and crosses in adverts for noughts and crosses. I guess it doesn't really promote your business as well. If you do exactly as well as your competitors by using
Yes.
our products. I don't know. But yeah, so that is the thing that me and Peter have been getting wound up about. Hopefully now you too can, wherever you go, be wound up by this exact same thing. But as I say, if you have a way to produce this mythical game of noughts and crosses that advertisers would like to use, then please do share it with us. But yeah, that has been a video, I guess.
You
Yeah.
you have a concluding line you might want to
I do
do.
have a concluding line, which is, according to my notes, if you're trying to show off that you're clever, don't play a literal children's game and do badly at it, because that is not the way to impress basically anyone. I think my 6-year-old nephew would probably not be impressed by some of these moves. So that's yeah,
Mm.
that's the moral of the story here. All right, well, thank you very much, Peter,
Mm.
and yeah,
Thank you.
see you all next time.